World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs, Philly Tailgates, and the STT Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Well, Chet, that huge thud you heard Sunday about 7 p.m., that was the Eagles crashing out of the playoffs, one and done. Kevin Patullo is already gone, and there's going to be a bunch more, I think. We have plenty to talk about there. Speaking of coaching changes, they're everywhere. John Harbaugh's out, Mike Tomlin's out, and a whole bunch of others. There's more coaching vacancies than there are qualified people to fill them at this point. There's a lot of talk, Phillies talk about Bichette joining the team after signing contracts with Alec Bohm and Bryson Stott. Somebody's going to have to go. Ranger Suarez is gone, we learned today. Didn't think he was coming back. Flyers got smacked in back-to-back home games by the Lightning. They were not good over the weekend. And the Sixers have won 6 of 8. They're now 6 out in the Eastern Conference. We're going to talk Philadelphia Sports Museum with a legend. Man, Chet, NFL playoff predictions. We got plenty to talk about. We're loaded.
Boy, I'll say, Bill, quite a lot going on, of course, across the entire Philly sports scene with the Phillies and all that rumor and speculation. The Flyers having a tough go of it, as you mentioned, down or against Tampa in Philly, actually. The Lightning, of course, a real good team. The Sixers, though, getting their hopes up that they will make a return to the playoffs. And, of course, the Eagles postseason ending pretty abruptly after another subpar performance by the offense. Yet another post-halftime meltdown. Going to be a long, interesting offseason.
Well, and we have a couple of great guests tonight that we're going to talk about it with Bleeding Green Nation's Brandon Lee Gowton. We'll break down the Birds, and former Sixers, Flyers, and Spectrum executive, the legendary Lou Scheinfeld, will join us to talk Philly Sports Museum and a whole lot more.
Yeah, well, so glad we were able to reconnect with the amazing Lou Scheinfeld, who was on our show way back in 2019. What a mark that gentleman has made on the business side of the Philly sports scene over the last 60 years, folks. He is a legend for sure. But you know what? BLG is something of a legend himself. I mean, he's been on our show. This will be his 28th appearance. Only Ray Didinger can say that. So that's pretty good company right there. He's here. He's ready to go. Let's do it.
And I was going to come back to that as we introduce BLG and say, and the other legend joining us tonight.
Exactly. There. See?
Is our man, Brandon Lee Gowton. Welcome back, BLG. This isn't how it was supposed to go.
BLG, turn your mic on.
There we go. See, you wouldn't think it's my 20th time considering.
I know. Come on, man.
No, I appreciate the legend status. I don't feel like I fully earned that, but I'll take it. I feel like we have to do something for 30th coming up, whatever that is.
Yeah. I'll bring the beer.
Hey, that sounds good to me. You said it wasn't how it was supposed to be. In some ways, yes, because of what they should have been capable of in theory, but in the reality of what we were watching for too often this season, it was kind of like the most fitting ending in that the offense would eventually cost them.
Well, let's get to it, BLG. Sunday's wild card game. The Eagles were home and favored, had more available talent. More of the core guys had been rested. The Niners were banged up much more than the Eagles. George Kittle out of there in the first half with an injury. So why did the Eagles lose that game?
Yeah, again, no good reason when you're 5.5-point favorites. That line was up to 6 in some places at home. So Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts were 5-0 in home playoff games prior to that loss on Sunday. As you said, the 49ers really banged up. The defense did not bring their A game, clearly. They've had better performances this year. Still, even though they weren't perfect, they ultimately produced 2 turnovers. They only allowed 23 points. And this was always the case when it came to the offense. It was like, Well, this is why the offense playing as poorly as it was is concerning, because you're probably going to have a game where the defense doesn't bring their A game. And then you kind of need the offense to step up, and you don't feel confident about them being able to do that. And they didn't. They went up against the worst defense in the playoffs by a lot of metrics you can look at. The 49ers are like the worst defense remaining in the postseason, and that was just as of the wild card round. And for you to be able to put up 19 points against that, when you have basically almost everyone healthy, obviously no Lane Johnson, that's significant, but no one is out here saying, oh, Fred Johnson cost them the game. And by the way, the 49ers had the worst pass rush in the NFL. They ranked dead last in sacks. So there was just really no good reason other than the ineptitude from what we saw on offense all season long.
BLG, it seems to me, just a fan watching the game, don't get to watch any more film or anything like that, that when the Eagles come out in the second half, they came out almost every week doing exactly the same thing offensively, and it turned into 3 and outs. Defense makes adjustments. It seemed offense did not make any adjustments, and that went on for half a season.
Yeah, and also I think the conservative nature of like, oh, let's just not turn it over. And obviously everyone can agree that giving the ball away is bad, but it's to what cost? And to completely neuter your offense and kind of just take your foot off the gas and try to sit on a lead for an entire half of football, like you can't do that, especially given how the Eagles were constructed this season. In the past, they maybe could get away with that a little bit more from a standpoint of you have that run game and you have the offensive line, you can really control the clock and go on these long drives. This year, not the case. They led the league in 3 and outs. And that's, again, they're the most expensive offense in the NFL. And it's not even close. The difference between them and second place is the difference between like second place and 7th place in terms of cash spending. So there's been so much invested in this offense that it makes no sense that they have to be so inept as they were this year.
As everybody knows by now, Kevin Patullo has indeed been relieved of his duties as offensive coordinator. Any other immediate moves, do you think, before free agency begins in early March? And what direction might they go in regarding the next OC? I know you put some names out there.
Yeah, so, I think there probably could be some other assistant coaching changes on offense because whoever they hire could want to bring in some of their own guys. Just for example, like, when the Eagles hired Kellen Moore, they brought in Doug Nussmeier, who had worked with Kellen Moore at multiple stops. So I don't know if that definitely means Scott Loeffler, the Eagles quarterbacks coach now, is gone, just because they will be hiring a new offensive coordinator. But there could be some turnover there. I think you look at wide receivers coach, that could be a spot, tight ends coach. Some of these assistant positions could be changing. When it comes to the offensive coordinator, I think the Eagles kind of have to go with someone who's done this before. This can't be another like learn on the job type thing. This has to be like, let's find someone who there's proof of concept this person can perform at a high level, who has done it before. And there are a lot of names out there that fit that bill. Among those, I think Todd Monken, formerly of the Ravens, is really interesting, considering these Ravens offenses we saw over the past few years. And obviously Lamar Jackson was operating at a high level. And just even before that, I've liked Todd Monken. He has a mindset of being more aggressive and taking shots down the field. And I think that's what this team needs because, Jalen Hurts is a quarterback you can win with. Obviously, we can all acknowledge there are limitations here. He's never probably going to be a guy who lives with passes over the middle of the field. And maybe that's okay, especially if you're trying to take more shots down the field, because he is really good at that part of the game. And I would like to see someone who kind of leans into that a little bit more and keeps the foot on the gas as opposed to just continue to be so conservative.
Brandon, speaking of Jalen Hurts, I've thought this for a couple years. It really showed its ugly head here recently. It seems to me, and you get to watch more film and see practice and some other things than most of us, he never steps up into the pocket, whether it's because of gap control by the defense, doing a good job, as they should, trying to force him to go sideways. Tom Brady even talked about it on Sunday. It was so bad. They early in the season, they were flushing him to the left. This last couple of weeks, they've been flushing him to the right. He still cuts the field in half and loses half of his receivers and ends up throwing the ball in the seats way, way too often. Is that on Hurts? Or am I right that it's gap control and the defenses are containing him?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a Jalen Hurts element to that. Specifically on Sunday's game, thought there was times where he bailed the pocket a little bit too early there and kind of actually, forced his way into pressure by rolling right and into an unblocked, defender on the edge there. So I think that's just something you're going to have to live with to some extent. Like, that's part of who he's been. But I do think, obviously, you want the offensive coordinator to try to improve upon that and, help him more schematically where that's not happening as much. I think in general, we're probably not going to see Jalen be one of these guys who's, leading the league in average time to throw in terms of, really short time to throw. But I think you can get him up from where he's been. And I'd like to see him make quicker decisions when it comes to stepping up in the pocket. It's not even just always stepping up and throwing, but just stepping up, taking off and running. Just be decisive, make a decision, trust what you're seeing. I would like to see him empowered a little bit more. And I think, again, that's something that's kind of gone wrong here with their approach, and them meaning the Eagles as a whole, to offense. And it's so like, just don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Again, no one is saying turnovers are good, but it at that point, it kind of like doesn't empower the player as much as it's kind of a fear-based mentality, and you're worried about making a mistake more than you're getting excited about actually making a good play.
Well, Brandon, having heard you on 94 WIP a few times during the season, seeing some of your tweets, I've come to the conclusion that you're not a huge fan of Nick Sirianni. Is that an accurate assessment?
I think he did not do a really good job this year specifically. And I think when we talk about the Eagles moving forward, it's not enough to me to just say, oh, he's done all these things. I need to know what about those things that he has done that you feel good about projecting moving forward. Like, that's the most instructive way to talk about the Eagles from this point. Obviously, again, yes, and it is insane when you look at the winning percentage and the metrics to say, but we have to parse through it and say, what specifically is he bringing to the table that we feel really good about? Because I don't think Nick Sirianni has to call plays for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, that was the case last year. However, if there's going to be a case where the offensive coordinator was struggling, which by their own admission seemed to be the case with how they took him out of that spot, at some point you would like the head coach to be able to have answers. And I don't really see the evidence, at least from this year, that we saw Nick Sirianni have answers. So I think he had a bad year. Obviously, they're not going to fire him, but I think he needs to do a much better job next year. And if we see more of the same next year, I think he could be in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's A.J. Brown. Let's talk about him. Obviously, he didn't have his best game. People aren't real happy with how that all played out. And I guess if there's anything in Philadelphia that you can do to upset the fan base, it's to give the impression that you're not giving 100%. And I think that a lot of us thought, maybe I don't think he dropped the ball on purpose by any means, but there looked like some times that he was a little pulled back.
Yeah, I mean, he's even talked about it in terms of throughout the course of the season, where he said, I think to some effect, it's hard to care. I think he's become so demoralized and emotionally uninvested because of how this team plays, in part. Again, going back to just what he has said, after that Rams game, where they're super conservative, I would say, in the first half of that game, and then they kind of open it up a bit more. They get back into it, in part because they're throwing to AJ and actually giving the receivers chances to make plays, in part because they have to at that point. They're just down so much they were more desperate. And, his takeaway from that is you got to let your killers go make plays. And therefore, I think they go, but they don't stick with that. They instead go back to, again, being so conservative with this. And I think it's a really frustrating experience for him. And you can say maybe, he needs to not be so frustrated. You can say all that, what should happen. But the reality is he does feel this way. And as a human being, it's probably hard to just pretend you don't feel that way. So it's really frustrating because there's no good reason for it to have come to this point. A.J. Brown, at his very best, is a very good player. I still think he is not fallen off a cliff. This was obviously a down year, a bad year for him. But I think the situation might be becoming untenable, unfortunately, for him in Philly. And I think that's a real shame.
Yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on for sure over the next few months. Will A.J. Brown be an Eagle still come this fall? Hey, you probably have seen the tweet from Dan Orlovsky about called runs for Jalen Hurts over the last couple of years. And I think I can bring that up right here. 96 of them during the 2024 season. This excludes the tush push, of course. 41 only in 2025. So well less than half. We can all see that having him as a threat to run is a plus. So why is it happening less and less often, BLG?
Yeah, I would disagree with the characterization of that tweet where he had it's like the most important thing we're not talking about. I mean, it's definitely an element of the equation here when we're talking about the struggles. I don't know that Jalen Hurts like running effectively, whatever it would be, the math there, like 2 or 3 more times a game, like totally fixes the offense. Like, oh, magic button, you press that and everything is better. And in the past, at least looking at last season in 2024, he did actually run it more in the postseason. There's been reporting that Jalen Hurts doesn't want to run as much. And I think that is something the Eagles are probably on board with. I don't think it's like the Eagles are super frustrated about that from the standpoint of they want to have him healthy late in the year. Obviously, in previous seasons, he's had injury issues late in the season where he's missed a game or two. So that's not coming from nowhere. So you have to balance it, right? Because, we can say, oh, he's not running enough. Oh, he's not running enough. But then if there's also a point where you could be like, oh, he's running too much. So it's really kind of trying to find the right balance of those two things.
Well, the other thing I want to talk about is that offensive line. Cam Jurgens was really not very good. He was hurt, right? He had back surgery. We don't never know if he was ever healthy at all. Landon Dickerson, we know, wasn't healthy from the start of the season. Tyler Steen being new, Fred Johnson spending so much time. And Jordan Mailata, I think, might be one that really didn't end up on the injury list very much. Jeff
Lane
Stoutland,
Johnson, of course.
Yeah, and Lane Johnson. And Jeff Stoutland has kind of gotten a free ride in this. I think the offensive line play was, I'll go with bad. I won't say awful. It wasn't good.
Yeah, they underperformed. And I think the Royal we here are spoiled from a standpoint of we're just used to seeing like the best offensive line in the NFL. And if not the best, like top 3, top 5. There were a lot of offensive lines in the NFL this year that were worse than what the Philadelphia Eagles have. Look when they played the Raiders, look when they played the Chargers. I mean, those offensive lines are horrible. They're down to like, third stringers in multiple spots on the line. They have starters who are like giant red flags. So the Eagles' worst starter, I don't think, is like typically, at least on paper, is like, oh no, like this guy can't even, shouldn't even be in the league. I don't think it's that dire. But they did underperform, to your point. And it's hard not to include Jeff Stoutland, who is literally has the title of run game coordinator, and your run game isn't getting going in that equation. And I don't know what to fully make of that. Like, it's hard for me to believe, oh, Jeff Stoutland like just doesn't have it anymore. I think it's possible that a good coach can have a down year, just like a good quarterback or whatever, a good player, in any kind of realm can have a down year. Maybe that was the case coming off the Super Bowl. Obviously, the injuries were a factor. I'm not pressing the panic button on Jeff Stoutland, but I do think it's fair to include him in the reason why the team struggled this year.
Well, Brandon, just like last year, the Eagles have a whole lot of free agents that they're going to have to deal with. There's, I guess, a pretty complete list right there. Who are some of the key guys they're going to target that they must bring back in 2026?
Yeah, it feels like the big, well, I guess you could say a big 4 if you go with Jalen Phillips, who I think is going to be one of the top free agents in the NFL, period. The Eagles just need, if they don't bring him back, they're going to need a new edge rusher. So I think I think they make that trade where they give up a 3rd-round pick in part because they think the door is open to signing him. It's not a guarantee that they're definitely going to keep him, but I think they're going to, seriously consider that. You're not going to hand him a blank check. The price has to be right, but I think they would be willing to make a big offer to Jalen Phillips. Nakobe Dean, in a perfect world where you're not having a salary cap and you're not on a budget, you would keep that guy because everyone loves him. Leader, great player. But when you draft Jahad Campbell in the 1st round, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I would not discount him as a factor of this equation too. He's looked good whenever he's had limited chances to play. It just seems like you're not going to be able to kind of compete with the other teams who are probably going to offer Nakobe Dean more money. Reed Blankenship, he's a captain on the team. Andrew Makuba is apparently going to take until later in the summer to get healthy from this injury that he had, fractured ankle against the Cowboys. So they might want to bring him back if the number is right. Probably maybe a guy you let test the waters in free agency and see if there isn't a market for him, you bring him back. And then Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert had a good year this year, was able to stay relatively healthy, obviously found his way in the end zone a ton. But, to me, it might not be apples for apples. But, when we looked at Josh Sweat last year, to me, that was like a divorce a year in the making in terms of going into the 2024 season. The Eagles had Josh Sweat take a pay cut. And it seemed like the relationship, was going from a standpoint there that they probably weren't going to come back and work out a long-term deal as much as they were going to part ways after that season, which is what happened. And I don't know that Goddard's going to get this huge contract given his age and his track record of injury history here. But I mean, if they don't bring him back, they're going to need a new starting tight end. Because there's no option. They have literally nothing behind him in terms of even players under contract. So that's a big one they have to figure out.
Hey, Brandon, somebody asked a question here. Will Nakobe Dean get big money in free agency? I don't see him coming back for 1 year. He's going to get money. Do you see him being the kind of guy who's going to get a nice 3 or 4 year deal somewhere?
Yeah, I don't know, big money in 3-4 years, maybe like a 2-year deal, just because again there is an injury history with Nakobe. But I do think he could get, it's not again apples to apples, but you look at someone like Mekhi Becton, he got a 2-year deal with the Chargers that was like pretty solid money, but I don't think a team was ready to just give him like a 5-year deal coming off of a nice year with the Eagles last year in 2024. Nakobe Dean, similar kind of story where he's had 2 pretty good years of production here, but there's also been injury issues throughout. And I just don't know that a team is giving him, that like 4 or 5-year deal as much as they are 2-3-year deal. And whatever it is, I do expect it to be more than the Eagles would be willing to offer.
Well, Brandon, the NFL's final 8 are now set. It's really wide open this year. Who do you think it's going to be February 8th in Santa Clara in Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, I think the Rams. I've been consistent throughout the season. They've just been the top team to me. They had a little bit of a scare there with the Panthers.
Yeah.
But I just think when they have one of the better offenses in the NFL. They have one of the better defenses in the NFL. The special teams unit is kind of a disaster. So that is a factor. But ultimately, I think that I trust Matthew Stafford to have some big games here in the playoffs. I think in that team's resume as a whole, they were in every single game this season. They never got blown out. They were in pretty much every single game down to the wire. And the few teams they lost to are, playoff teams. I still think they have the best shot here to win it all.
Interesting. We'll see. Huh? I lost my thought, Chet, but you had a Sixers question. I know what it was. Never mind. It just came back. It just came back.
You go first. I got to ask a Sixers question.
I lost my mind here a second.
Yeah, you're old.
Yeah, I know. As I mentioned in the opening, a lot of coaches openings. Harbaugh, Tomlin, McDaniel, a bunch of them. Are you surprised at so many? And who are going to fill these jobs unless they recycle them and put them right back in different teams? Are there enough good candidates to fill all these jobs?
It's up to 9, right? That's crazy.
Yeah,
over a quarter of the league. And going into this cycle, before the season ended, it didn't look like there were going to be a lot of great candidates out there. But because, you have Mike Tomlin, although it sounds like he might just, sit out for a year, we'll see. But John Harbaugh, there's a lot of different, interesting names out there. Kevin Stefanski, Mike McDaniel, and this is just the former head coaches who were fired, obviously, of the up-and-comers as well, which I think that was more of like a thinner pool of obvious candidates, at least in terms of who you're really excited about, who might be the next great coach. So, yeah, it's fascinating. Obviously, the Eagles were going to be monitoring what happens with the Giants. It seems like Harbaugh could end up there. Stefanski been in the mix as well. Maybe it doesn't matter because the Giants are so bad, but these are probably the best candidates they've had for a while. And then just the coordinators of it all, too. The Cowboys are looking for a defensive coordinator. The Commanders are looking for a defensive coordinator. They both interviewed Jonathan Gannon. I wouldn't mind if he could return to the NFC East and the Eagles could go up against him. There's going to be a lot of change around the league.
Hey, BLG, for the first time in a while with you, I can ask you a Sixers question and not feel like I need a shower after doing so. They're 22-16. They're fifth place in the East. Tyrese Maxey is an MVP candidate. Joel Embiid has played 7 of the last 8 games and is playing well. How are you feeling about the 10-9-8 76ers?
Yeah, I'm knocking on wood on the Embiid thing. So going into this, you have to. Going into this year for the Sixers, my approach is that, like, I'm taking anything I get from Embiid and Paul George as a bonus. I'm not counting on anything from them. Anything I get from them, I'm just going to be cool, great, like really thankful for that. But I'm not going into it expecting much. And I think it's a more enjoyable ride that way. I'm really focusing on the young guys.
How about this guy?
I was just going to say, I love VJ, man. I really wanted him. That was my guy in the draft. I was very excited when they got him. Didn't totally know what to make of him until that first summer league game. And then I was like, oh man, I'm all in. Like I was optimistic, and then I saw that. And then just obviously ever since the debut in the opening night, I mean, he's been awesome. I think he is a super high ceiling, bright future ahead of him. So I think the best way to approach the Sixers again is keep the expectations low. And look, it's hard to kind of like check yourself with that because they have some of these performances and you want to get ahead of yourself and you want to think, but I think it's best for everyone involved just to kind of keep it low right now and kind of like wake up when the playoffs arrive and be like, okay, we're here. And, keep things an open mind.
And hope Joel is around at that time.
Absolutely.
Hey, BLG, before we let you go, let everybody know where they can follow what you got going on. I guess you moved on to the draft. You'll be getting going with that. Where can everybody find you?
Oh, yeah, mock draft season upon us. Oh, man, a lot of those before late April. But, you can check out all my work on bleedinggreenNation.com. And you can also check me out on social media by looking up my name on various platforms, including Twitter, at Brandon Gowton, and see what I have going on there. And if you're checking out bleedinggreenNation.com, sign up for an account because it's free. And a little pro tip here, when you're logged into your account, you see fewer ads than you would if you were not logged in. So it's just an easy way to automatically get a better experience at the site, see fewer ads.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, BLG, as always, thanks for taking the time. Number 28, and we appreciate it.
Same here, guys.
Thank you, Brandon. Take care.
All right. Hey, Chet, Philly Pressbox Radio is part of the STT Sports Network, as in Set the Trends. It's a network set up by our pal Phil Stiefel, host of the terrific Trending in the AM show that you can find every weekday morning on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel. Check out Phil. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Phil's show is on there, and so is ours. Yes, you can find Philly Pressbox Radio there, in addition to our own YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. Again, it's the STT Sports Network, setting the trends for what sports talk should be.
Mm-hmm.
Chet, the new year is here. Unfortunately, football season has ended. There's still got to be lots of activities at the Irish Rover Station House.
Always something going on at the Irish Rover, Bill. You know that, especially, the food and drink is terrific. The Irish Rover Station House, Langhorne, Pennsylvania, terrific food. Plus, 24 beers on tap, killer burger Thursdays. Thursday nights also bring $9 wings, and I love their wings, $5 giant Stella Pours, plus happy hour specials, music most weekends, and a $5 Sunday Fun Day menu. All of that and more at the Irish Rover Station House. They're located on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne, and find them on the web at irishroverstationhouse.com. And Bill, I got Willie.
Hey everybody, it's Willie Nile here, and you're listening to Chet and Bill on Philly Pressbox Radio. You lucky people.
And Bill, big week for Willie Nile and everybody over in Asbury Park and Red Bank, that area, because this is the annual Light of Day stuff in efforts to raise money for Parkinson's disease and some other issues. So Willie's in town all week. He's got something going on, I think, Thursday night, Friday night, the main event on Saturday night with all sorts of other special guests. And I'm going to try to get out there Friday night for one of the shows that Willie is involved with. So great stuff every year, raising money for Light of Day.
Fantastic. Hey, Ted, a lot of positive Bo Bichette Phillies talk this week. What's interesting is he's a shortstop. So is the defending batting champion, Trey Turner, who already plays for the Phillies, and the number 1A prospect, Aiden Miller. He's also a shortstop. Somebody has to move. Somebody has to be traded. Bohm, Stott, both. And we lost Ranger Suarez today, probably as expected.
Yeah, got to be interesting to see how all this plays out. As you said, losing Ranger not a big shock, but it does leave a hole in the rotation. So you better hope Andrew Painter's ready. I don't know if Zach Wheeler is going to be there for the start of the season. He may be, not till late April or May. Who knows? We don't have a real good update on him as yet.
On that note, somebody mentioned today, as there was a discussion going on, that they read on the Phillies website somewhere that he's expected to be in with pitchers and catchers, getting ready to go.
Get out. Well, you know what? I'm going to talk to Rob Thompson next week because Rob Thompson is going to be at the Philly Sports Writers Banquet next Wednesday. We'll talk about that in a bit later, but I'm going to have a chance to talk with Rob Thompson again, as I did 2 years ago. So I'm going to get it right from him. What the heck is the status of Zach Wheeler? Now, as for Bo Bichette, that is heating up because, the market is getting narrower and narrower with Bregman having signed. If he does come, it would mean either Stott or Bohm would be moved. As we discussed last week, he could probably play either second base or third base. So he has done a little bit of that in the past. So that would be the obvious thing. Play him at one of those positions. Keep Turner at short. Turner's not going to move to the outfield. Forget about that. No. I think Turner did improve last year. And then you do have Aiden Miller, as you noted, who's also a shortstop and should be pretty close to getting ready for his big league debut. So it's got to be interesting. We don't know how it's going to play out, but hopefully we will get some resolution to all this, plus JT Realmuto within the next week or two. Of course, I've said that the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Right. Well, the catching situation as a whole, whether it's Realmuto or somebody, they've got to have a catcher before the next few weeks.
And I think we're a month from today from spring training starting up. Maybe yesterday?
Actually, I think it's the 12th, I think.
Okay. So
pitchers and catchers. I think
there
it's
you
the
go.
12th. Yeah. Well, my bet is, and I probably won't be thrilled about this, I think Bohm is the one that's going to go. I think he could actually bring something. Stott, I'm not sure brings a whole lot in the trade deal.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Stott's not going to get you a whole lot, but you could keep him around as a backup. That would probably hurt his feelings quite a bit. But
he's too young for that.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. So it's going to be interesting, and hopefully it'll get resolved real soon. Bill, before we move on, I want to mention a couple of things. First of all, a very happy birthday, 2 days late, to Jane, who watches us every week, just had another birthday. So have a good one, Jane. And birthday, Jane. On a not so good note, our buddy Carl Henderson suffered a heart attack over the weekend. He is, though, back at work already doing his podcast this evening. And we wish Carl the very, very best.
Absolutely. I was texting with Carl throughout the week, and he good for him. He had a close call, close scare.
Yeah. Seems to be doing much better, though, days later.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Chet, you had a chance to visit with the Philly sports legend we talked about in the opening, Lou Scheinfeld. Lou has done all in Philly sports that pretty much he can do. Sixers, Flyers, Spectrum. Philly Sports Hall of Fame is his baby. Tell us about your visit with Lou.
Boy, has he done a lot. Dating back to the mid-1960s, as I said at the top of the show, we had a great conversation, Lou and I, about his amazing career, that ongoing effort, that never-ending effort to bring the Museum of Sports to Philadelphia and get it built in the city, hopefully down at the sports complex. He's been trying that for some 15 years, believe it or not. Getting a little bit of headway finally. Plus a nice honor that he'll be getting next week, courtesy the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association. So lots to discuss, and this was a great conversation, pretty entertaining. This guy is a gem. Here we go, my chat with Lou Scheinfeld. What a treat to have this gentleman back on Philly Pressbox Radio. Why has it taken 7 years for him to make his return? That's my bad. I apologize, but we are going to right that wrong right now as we welcome Lou Scheinfeld back to the show. Lou, how the heck are you?
I'm pretty good for a young man who just celebrated his 90th birthday on Thanksgiving. So I'm still here.
I was going to get to that. Yeah, you're our first ever, I guess it's, what is it, nonagenarian, something like that? 90 years old?
I was wondering that. I don't even know how to say that.
I got to tell you, you're more handsome and probably sharper than most of the 40, 50, 60-year-olds we have on here.
Thank you. I can't attribute that to clean living.
Well, Lou, for folks who may not know you, I think everybody does, but just in case, let me read them just a bit from your bio. Born and raised in Philadelphia, brewery town, a Central High grad, then Temple, journalism major, Philly Daily News, City Hall reporter, then city editor, all of that before 1966 when you joined Ed Snyder in establishing a new sports arena in South Philadelphia, which, of course, eventually became the Spectrum, where you worked for nearly 15 years as an executive of the arena, plus the Flyers and the memorable local cable channel Prism, before joining the 76ers as CEO in early 1980. All of that in the first half of your life, and yeah, you're still going strong.
Well, I was a hotshot reporter for the Daily News and covering City Hall, which was a dream. I'm a Philly guy, and City Hall to me was Taj Mahal. It just was wonderful to grow up in Philadelphia and wind up covering it. And thank you for that intro, because it kind of covered what I did. I'm a lucky guy. I have good health. I grew up in a candy store, 30th and Girard, milkshakes, comic books. Hey, we had the original Superman comic book in the 30s, which just sold for 12 million or some crazy number. They were 10 cents. If I had saved two of them, two comic books, I'd be a millionaire right now. But
well, the Spectrum, you named the Spectrum, right? You gave it the name?
Named the Spectrum, SP for sports in South Philadelphia, E for entertainment, C for concerts and circuses, T for theatricals, R for recreation, and as an what a nice building.
I love it.
Yeah, and one of the fellas in our group, Hal Freeman, he wanted to name it the Keystone Arena. And I didn't want the word arena. I didn't want Keystone or a dead president or something to do with the war. And came up with the word Spectrum, which I had to go to the dictionary to see what it meant. And it meant all the colors emanating from a prism, everything colorful under the sun, images which form displays. And I said, that's the name. It's going to be the Spectrum.
Well, when we had you on back in 2019, you told us how during the 1969-70 Flyers season, you came up with the idea of playing Kate Smith's recording of God Bless America instead of the anthem on occasion. So remind me, the night that you actually had the press box guy play it before a game against the Maple Leafs, how did it work out and how did Ed Snyder react?
Well, it was the height of the Vietnam War, racial unrest in Philadelphia and across the nation. And I'm a very patriotic guy. And I noticed at Flyers games, a lot of people were not standing during the national anthem. At 76ers games, they were eating, smoking illegally up on the upper decks. And I said, that's not, what do you think these people would feel if we took the national anthem away from them? He said, what are you talking about? I said, maybe play another song one night, shake people up. He said, what are you, crazy? Yeah. So months later, I find this record of Kate Smith singing God Bless America. I found it in a used record shop on South Street. And I took it home, took it back to the Spectrum, and I played it one night after the building was closed and dark. And I thought, my God, one night we're going to play this. So played it one night when Toronto was in town. Flyers were not very good, losing almost every game or tying. And we win, we fight, we score. It was exciting. Ed Snyder goes crazy when he heard it playing and cursed me out, as he always did, in a fatherly way. But we won, and people come up the aisle and said to Ed Snyder, what a great idea. This should be our national anthem from now on. So the first 3 years we played her record, we were 19-1-1. Which was incredible for a team that did not have a winning record. So it kicked off a wonderful relationship with Kate Smith, who was still alive and became as she referred to the Flyers, my boys. She referred to them as my boys. But he didn't like it. Ed didn't like it. But he said to him, just keep up what you're doing.
I should note that Ed Snyder once said, Lou Scheinfeld is the most creative person I've ever known. So nice compliment from Mr. Snyder.
Yes, it was.
Lou, we at Philly Pressbox Radio are friendly with another Lou, Flyers longtime PA announcer, PA man extraordinaire, Lou Nolan. He's, by the way, the author of this great book, If These Walls Could Talk. You're mentioned in here, of course. And is it true that you and Lou, have been friends for some 60 years now, and that you hired him after a brief audition in 1972 to be the PA man?
That is absolutely true. Lou was a friend of Joe Cadillac, who was Joe was the first person I hired as a PR director, and his friend was Lou Nolan, who I didn't know that well. And our PA announcer in '72, Kevin Johnson, quit to go to the rival WHA team in Philadelphia, and we needed an announcer. And Joe Cadillac says, "Well, you should talk to Lou Nolan. He's pretty good. He'd like to be in." I said, "Well, tell him to come in for an interview." So Lou came in one day while we were actually installing the third deck.
Yeah.
And we had cranes and riveters and all kinds of iron workers in the building. Floor is covered with sand and there's equipment on top of it. And I said to Lou, "Listen, I can't give you an audition right now with all." He said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "This doesn't bother me." So we lowered a microphone from the scoreboard, which like they do in boxing.
Mhm.
And Lou took it. And the first thing he says, "Can you turn the crane off?" So they turned the crane off. And when Lou tells the story, he says, and the crane went "Buh, buh, 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 buh," and went off. And he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, blah, 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 blah." 10 seconds. I said, "You're hired." He said, "That's it?" I said, "If you could handle yourself with all this going on, you got the job." That's how he got hired. And he's been the most wonderful friend, man, capable announcer. Rarely, ever, ever in 50 years misses a game.
And there's you and Lou just a few
there
years
he
ago.
is.
Still great friends all these years later.
Yep.
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, Lou, it was 50 years ago this week that one of the most memorable games in Flyers and Spectrum history took place, January 11th, 1976. Talking, of course, about the game against the Soviets. And of all people, this guy scored a key goal, Joe Watson.
Selesky on the right wing. Selesky the drive. Swing. Joe Watson, the Smithers Thundermouth, who gets maybe 1 or 2 or 3 a year, but Denmark, the Flyers using the Soviet.
What are your memories of that day 50 years ago?
Well, it's quite vivid, and I see flashes all the time on social media and the internet, and it was exciting. It was a world event. We could have caused World War III. That's the Flyers, the bullies. And you know what Fred Shiro said of Joe Watson scoring that? He said he just said hockey back 20 years. But the Flyers were primed for it. You know, the Soviets came in. They were actually an all-star team made up of many, many teams.
Yeah.
The best players all of Russia. And it was very important to Russia. And they had come in to play 4 games. They won 2, tied 1, came to Philadelphia. And all of a sudden, people in Canada and other places are rooting for the Flyers, the team they hated. And we beat them up 4-1. They walked off the ice. And I'm sitting with Ed Snyder up in the super box, and Ed jumps out of his seat, runs down to the locker room, and asks Alan Eggleston, the league executive who put the tour together, have they been paid yet, the Russians? And he said, no. He said, through an interpreter, he said, tell the manager, no play, no pay. So they said, well, the manager of the Russian team said, you make damage on our players. We not play. So then Ed told him this, and he said, we play. So they came back on the ice, knocked them down, beat them up, and they learned what the Broad Street Bullies was all about. And it was spectacular. I mean, we feel the Flyers saved hockey and the NHL's reputation.
I was in college at the time. I watched it and loved every minute of it. Hey, what is your take on the current Flyers, Lou? The Flyers with Danny Briere, Keith Jones, and Rick Tocchet at the helm. Are they getting back to the postseason finally? I know the last 2 games against Tampa Bay kind of sucked, but what's your feeling otherwise about these guys?
Well, you know, those last 2 games were a good measuring stick, and it shows them you're on an upward curve, and the front office is a breath of fresh air. You know, God bless Ed Snyder. He loved his Flyers, and he kept hiring them. And but Danny Briere is a different breed. He's an intellectual. He's not emotional. We brought in Jones and some of the others. Dan Hilferty now, who's a visionary, a wonderful, wonderful guy who, incidentally, after 7 years, invited the Flyers alumni back into the fold. For 7 years, we were asked not to come to the lounge, not to come to the locker room. We were basically shut out. And Dan opened his arms. So it is a breath of fresh air. And they got a lot of good young players in the pipeline. And Jim, I'm excited for this team.
Yeah, me too. All right, two more important topics we have to cover. First one, Lou, your efforts to get a Philadelphia Museum of Sports built. You've been spearheading that effort for more than a decade, 15 years, in fact, you told me. Is there finally some positive news on that front?
Well, there's positive and negative, more positive than negative. We've been waiting, and again, Dan Hilford has been a great, enthusiastic backer of the museum. We've been waiting for this sports complex to get redeveloped so we could open a sports museum right down there. No better place in the world. All four teams play at the same corner. 9 million people a year buy tickets to the 300 and some events that are there. So, but that's not going to happen for maybe 4 years, 4 years. So meantime, we have found a wonderful location. Witt Brothers, it's a historic former department store at 7th and Market. We have a lease about to be signed for 12,000 square feet right at the corner of 7th and Market. Our partner, Dr. Nicholas DePace, has a collection of worth more than $50 million. So he's got not just Philadelphia stuff, Pennsylvania stuff, and memorabilia from the Olympics and National, Joe Louis, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, you name it, he's got it. We're going to show it all. We're hoping to open this summer. We're raising funds right now. And, Jim, it's funny. I talked to some people about a donation to the Sports Museum, and they say, don't we already have a sports museum? I said, no, we don't. We got sports, but we don't have a museum. Yeah. It's more positive than negative. The negative is we need money. A lot of people say, well, after you get open, we'll give you funds. And we say, that's not going to help us open. Yeah, exactly. We won't need you after we open if we can open. So, but we got some wonderful folks on the board who are doing a great job. We're all volunteers. We're a nonprofit, and we're hoping the city and the state will kick in money so that we can open up this summer on Market Street in time for the 2026 celebration.
That would be great. And I love your quote about it. You've always said, I want to be the first drunk thrown out of the museum.
I have worked on this without remuneration, as my wife would say, when you're getting a check. But it's a labor of love. It's a noble thing we're doing. And yeah, I want to get drunk that night. That doesn't take much to get me drunk nowadays. One drink will do it, and be ejected. I'm trying to will this museum to happen, and I'm carrying the torch. And we're going to get it done, and I want to be thrown out.
All right. Last thing, a real nice honor for you. The Philadelphia Sports Writers Association, of which I'm a member, by the way, will honor you at their annual banquet January 21st with a Special Achievement Award. Have you written your acceptance speech yet, Lou?
Well, they told me I only have 5 minutes. And I can't say hello in 5 minutes, as you know. I've got such fantastic stories, things that happen that when I make speeches at the old age homes, the right demographic, and other places, men's clubs and ladies and Boy Scouts, whatever, I could talk for 2 hours, but I've got it down to 1 hour. So 5 minutes, I'm going to try and tell one story about how we got this thing started. It was bankrupt to begin with, and how Ed Snyder pulled it together, and how we had to send a truck up to New York to get our dasher boards out of a union building that was on strike, and how I ran across the street with a $2 million check to get our franchise. So I'm going to try and condense it, and maybe I'll be a speed talker, but I'm going to try, I pepper it with some sometimes off color humor, which I have to be careful about, because my wife will be there, so she'll be have me on a short leash. So I'm working on it, Jim. I'm trying to hone it down.
I should mention that you wrote a book about that and much more 5 years ago, Blades, Bands, and Ballers. It's tough to find, but I actually just ordered the book yesterday, found it on eBay for $11, and I can't wait to get it and read it because I know it's going to be great. Lou, again, congrats on the award. And best of luck with the Museum of Sports. I hope it happens this summer. That'd be great, the temporary location. And for folks wondering, the PSWA banquet will happen January 21st. That's at the Doubletree by Hilton in Cherry Hill. Tickets available through the website, phillysportswriters.com. Lou, I will see you at the banquet. This was fun.
Absolutely. Thank you. And as Rocky said, we ain't giving up.
Hey, pal, that was excellent. Excellent.
Bill, I would say that if we make it to 90, I hope we're as sharp as Lou is, but I think that ship has sailed for us already.
I couldn't remember the last question to BLG.
Exactly.
Right?
So,
that was excellent. Lou is great.
Love that guy.
Lot of good stories.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
We do have to have him back on again. Don't wait 7 years. As he said to me, I've got a shelf life. So
yeah, right. I wonder, I was sitting there thinking as he was talking, like Jeff Lurie, John Middleton.
I know.
They got more money than they can spend. Yeah. I mean, the local ownerships of these clubs are making millions and millions and millions of dollars. It probably wouldn't take a lot of money from somebody like those guys as it would trying to get $100 checks from people like me and you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I hope they do step up because I would love to see it. And, Lou's not going to be around forever. So I would love to see it built while he can get there and enjoy it and get himself thrown out, like he said.
Yeah. 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 I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a fun thing to go visit too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, people enjoy that. And let's make it happen. Can't wait to meet Lou in person for the first time next week.
Yeah. Well, Chet, we used to talk about tailgating with the Eagles in the playoffs, and we ain't going to do that anymore. So what's going on with Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly tailgates as baseball season comes?
Well, they have been cooking up a terrific business, those guys at Cavs Philly tailgates, for some 35 years now, and they're still doing it. They are known best for their tailgate parties, of course, but Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgates Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs also does corporate events, parties, you name it. Cavs, regarding those tailgates at sporting events, well, there won't be any more Eagles parties, of course, until September, but there will be Phillies tailgates before the home opener in late March and another one then before a Phillies Guardians game in May. Get details on those and other events at Cavs' website. That would be phillytailgates.com. And if you do have any questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go.
Hey, Chet, speaking of tailgating, if you want to go to the national championship game at Hard Rock Stadium next Monday night, you can park in the cheap lot to tailgate for $398.
No.
Or you could go to the expensive lot for $5,410 for a parking spot, pal.
You're kidding, right?
No, I'm reading it. I pulled this up while you were talking. 900. There's a 926 if you want to get in the middle, and there's a 1,373 if you'd like a piece of that action, so that you could tailgate at Hard Rock Stadium.
I'm going to park my ass on my couch in my man cave for free parking.
Yeah, I'd be finding the closest Walmart or something to walk into the game.
That is crazy.
I'd think. Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh my goodness. All right, Chet. We conceded the regular season pick 'em pool and margin of victory pool to Boop, Bob Patrone Jr., but we're back in the playoffs. I think we had a lot or maybe all the same picks. We're not going to this week. How do we do?
Yeah, it was uneventful the first weekend as far as our picks were concerned. Some great games, but yeah, we all made the exact same 6 picks. Before I get to that, though, I will mention that in the 2023 season, Boop ran away with the postseason pick'em competition. You and I a distant second place. That was 2023 postseason. Last year, he and I tied for the top honors in the postseason pick'em. You were dead last, Bill. So if you won it, it was at least 3 years ago, the postseason thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably just you trying to throw a cheap shot because I beat you in the margin of victory. But that's okay.
My records don't go back that far, so I don't know.
Everybody knows. That's all right.
All right, the pick'em standings so far. Yeah, like I said, everybody went 4-2, so we got to change that. Hopefully, we will have at least 1 or 2 different this weekend.
I'm going off the grid on these picks this week. All right, so here we go. Saturday, Bills at Broncos. Bills minus 1.5 at Denver.
Yeah. Now, BetMGM has the Broncos favored by 1, but yeah, you're right. Some of the lines have the Bills favored slightly by either a half point or 1 or 1.5. BetMGM has Broncos -1. So kind of crazy. Let's see. Boop says the Josh Allen train churns on. He is taking the Bills. Well, we do have a different one because I'm going with the home team, and it kind of hurts me because I'm rooting for the Bills, but I'm picking Denver to win. So either way, I guess I win, but either way I lose too.
I'm taking the Broncos because I think they're better.
Yeah, defense. Good defense.
49ers at the Seahawks. Seahawks are -7. A lot of points in this game, Chet.
Yeah, I'm surprised the line is that big, but maybe I shouldn't be. All right. Boop says, yes, we could be looking at a 6-6 Super Bowl. Wow. Boop is taking the 49ers. Are you kidding me? I'm taking Seattle. I mean, that is a big line. Seattle's home. Got to go with the Seahawks.
I'm not kidding you because I'm taking the 49ers.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. That gets us to Sunday. The Texans at the Patriots. The Patriots -3.5.
All right. Boop says, I can't pull out of my head that the Texans fell to 3-5 the day after the World Series ended. Yeah, they were really good after that. He says that, and yet Boop is picking the Patriots. How about that? I'm going the opposite way on this one, too. Again, because of the defense. I know they're on the road, but I'm taking Houston.
Well, you know me. I went defense, too. I took Houston.
I had a hunch.
I'm not sure how long this Houston run's going to last, but they're playing awful good football, and especially on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Rams at the Bears. Rams -4. That looks like an easy pick on paper, Chet.
On paper, it does. Boop says, when did Soldier Field stop looking like Soldier Field?
The last renovation.
Ah, okay. There you go. He's picking the Rams. I'm taking the Rams also. BLG is picking the Rams too. We know that.
And Bill's taking the Bears.
Wow, are you really?
I am.
You are going against the grain.
Well, I just don't. I'm not in love with the Rams. I think the Rams are overrated. I just they should have lost last week. Could have lost last week.
Very well could have, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, that gets us to Monday. We threw in the college football championship game. Miami at Indiana or versus Indiana in Miami, except Miami's the visitors in their own home stadium. Indiana,
yeah, we mentioned this game to Boop in our little group.
8.5 point favorites.
Boop says Hoosiers by 100. So
yeah.
I don't know about that, but you got to take the Hoosiers, and I think they're going to cover also.
Yeah, I'm going to take Indiana. I don't think Miami's going to roll over and die, but I think Indiana is just too good. It's been a great run for those guys.
Yep, I agree.
All right. A couple great guests tonight, Brandon Lee Gowton and Lou Scheinfeld, and we have a schedule change for next week. So who, what, where, when?
Yeah, because of the PSWA banquet, which, as we said, is next Wednesday, the 21st, I'll be there. Lou Scheinfeld will be there. Lots of other Christopher Sanchez will be there. Rob Thompson will be there. So that's where I'll be. We are going to have our show next week on Thursday, and we're going to talk Eagles. We're going to talk Phillies. We're going to talk Sixers with our very special guests. We try to have them on every few months or so. And I'm talking about the guy who is part of our network, well, because it's actually his network. It's Phil Stifle, host of Trending in the AM. And by then, he may have that coveted milestone of 1,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. He's getting real close.
Yeah, he is. All right. Final thoughts on the Flyers, Sixers. I think Lou laid out the Flyers thing very well. There was a measuring stick that came out with those two beatdowns by the Lightning. There's still Flyers work to do.
Yeah, still got some work to do. And as we discussed last week, they really need a backup goaltender too, because Ersson just ain't cutting it.
Although Vladar was not much better on the next.
He was not. He was not.
The Lightning. Yeah.
But Tampa Bay's doing that to everybody these days. So we'll see. We got to get Mishkov going because he has not looked the same this year as last year. We'll talk more Flyers in the future. A reminder, the 2026 PSWA banquet happens next Wednesday at the Doubletree by Hilton and Cherry Hill. I'll be there. That's reason enough to come hang out. Tickets are available through phillysportswriters.com. And Bill, you watch it, I watch it. The Landman Season 2 finale this Sunday on Paramount Plus. I'll be watching it as it airs.
I'm one behind. I got to get caught up before Sunday. I think I'm one, maybe two.
It's been a good series yet again this year. So unfortunately, Bill, we're out of time. I don't have time to give my recap of the Golden Globes.
Good.
I know you're
good.
bummed.
One comment I have to make, rest in peace to our pal Barry Bowe, who passed away.
What?
Oh yeah.
I did not know that.
He I don't know if it was the day after Christmas, maybe.
How did I miss that?
He had apparently he had a heart attack and passed away. So
oh wow.
It skipped my notes last week. I meant to bring it up, but I wanted to be sure we got that in there. Super duper guy Barry was, and
did not know that.
Yeah.
All right, rest easy, Barry. Get well soon, Carl Henderson, and everybody have a great week.
All right, let's do it. Let's thank tonight's special guests, Brandon Lee Gowton and Lou Scheinfeld. Our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs, Philly Tailgates, and PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim, Chet, Jesco, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Pressbox Radio next Thursday night, January 22nd at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel, and on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel, and listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans.
I heard something at the game that really made me just think about my life. It's win or lose, we're the bleeping birds, baby.